Morning, everybody. Dr. Evan here. Hope you guys are all having a wonderful Wednesday morning. So, wanted to talk to you a little bit today. I think today's Wednesday. Yeah, I think today's Wednesday. I wanted to talk to you guys all today about fixing your food. So, chapter 5 in the book. And just remember, you can get the book at Amazon right now on Kindle. The paperback will be coming out in a couple days. Or you can come and see us as a patient at the Hirsch Center here in Olympia. We see people from all over the world, and they come and see us once a year, and the rest we do by phone. So let's talk about fixing your food. So food is a very touchy subject. We all have a lot of emotions wrapped up in food, and part of that is because, our parents nurtured us in a particular way. We associate a lot of childhood memories with food, and also because of what foods produce in our bodies. So wheat and dairy actually produce morphine-type molecules in our gut when we consume them. In gluten, the main protein in wheat, the main protein is gluten or gliadin. Those are two of the main ones. And so they're gluteomorphines that are being produced in the gut. And in dairy, they're caseomorphines, with casein being the major protein in dairy. So this is one of the reasons why we have that good feeling when we consume these foods. But it's also why these foods are so damn addictive. People will say, they come into the practice and they'll do everything. I'll take supplements and do this, but I cannot stop eating bread because it is that addictive for them. And oftentimes, the food that you are most attached to is the food that is probably the biggest problem for you. It's causing a lot of inflammation in the gut. Another interesting thing is that if you have constipation, morphine will slow down your gut. So these gluteomorphines and caseomorphines will actually slow down your gut, cause inflammation, cause constipation, a whole bunch of different problems there. So what is the ideal diet? So the ideal diet changes from person to person, so I definitely recommend that people try different diets, probably for about 3 months. But I believe the ideal diet to be a paleo diet, a Paleolithic diet. So this basically means that, 3 million years ago, we were in this same form, and our diet was fruits and vegetables and meats, and it was before we met grains. So we met grains about 10,000 years ago. And Dr. William Davis goes all into this in his wonderful book, Wheat Belly. But we didn't know grains, we didn't know gluten until about 10,000 years ago. And so we haven't really evolved to include them into our physiology. And, we can tolerate them. A lot of people will consume them and say they don't have a problem with it. But it's becoming more and more of a problem for our patients and our society. Gluten actually has been hybridized. So people will say gluten is GMO. Gluten is not really GMO in this country. There have been some issues with GMO, and Europe won't take our wheat for concerns about GMO. But what we've found is that even if you don't have a sensitivity to gluten, gluten is still going to damage your intestines. So no matter who you are, if you're consuming gluten, it damages your intestines. It causes what's called leaky gut, increases inflammation. We have 80% of our immune system in the gut. And if you start to disrupt that, the immune system is going to start causing problems. It's going to start going haywire. You're going to start getting autoimmune diseases, eczema, autoimmune thyroid. A lot of those things can be triggered in part by gluten. So that's why I recommend a paleo diet, which is meat and vegetables and fruits and no wheat or other grains at all. So, and there's modifications. You have to figure out what you can live with so that you don't feel like you're being deprived. Maybe you have a little bit of rice, or, like I like to have gluten-free granola, every other day or so in the morning. So, but you always want to balance, anytime you have any grains, you want to balance it with fat and protein so that the release of that sugar from that grain ends up being released more slowly into the body, so your body does not react negatively to it, and so that it keeps your blood sugars nice and smooth, and so your cortisol and your adrenals aren't spiking, which we'll get to around chapter 9. We'll talk more about your adrenals and cortisol. So, paleo diet. ideal diet. And it's amazing the things that I see. I see cholesterol come down, which people will say, wait a second, you're telling me to eat a paleo diet with lots of meat and my cholesterol is going to come down? And that is absolutely true. And part of that is because your body will store fat and sugar in the form of triglycerides from fat and sugar. And so that's sugars, but that's also your carbohydrates, that's your grains. And those will increase your fat storage in your triglycerides, and that will increase your cholesterol. So on the paleo diet, I see people's cholesterol normalize, their inflammatory markers normalize, which are all increased risk for heart attack, heart disease, stroke, Alzheimer's, a number of things. Blood sugars normalize. It's really an amazing diet. I always recommend everybody to try it. And if it's not working for somebody, then you do a modification of it. Maybe you don't need as much meat. And when I say meat, I'm talking about mainly the red meats, so and the white meats. So chicken. I don't consume pork, but you could consume pork as long as it's grass-fed. And all of these meats, we want to make sure that they are grass-fed, that they're free-range, they're hormone-free, antibiotic-free. We want to eat as close to the land as possible, as close to our great-great-great-great-great-grandfathers or 3 million years ago, our Paleolithic ancestors. So it's very important to, so coming back to that, so the chicken, lamb, meat. I'm not a big fan of fish, which we'll get to in later chapters, because there's so much mercury in fish that even the EPA no longer recommends that pregnant women consume any tuna fish at all. The bigger the fish, the more the fat, the more heavy metals are stored in that fish. And so I don't really recommend it. The only fish I do recommend are sardines and anchovies, but I don't consume anchovies, so it's kind of sardines. And my wife makes a great sardine fish salad. And if you go to fixyourfatigue.org/members, you can become a free member on our website, and you can download a whole bunch of different resources, and that's one of the things that you can download there. So so mainly those are the meats that you're going to want to consume, and then your vegetables, you're going to want to consume organic vegetables whenever possible. And the Environmental Working Group puts out what's called the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15, which is a list of the foods that have the most pesticides on them and the foods that have the least number of pesticides. So if you can't buy organic foods for all of your foods, you want to make sure that you're purchasing the Clean 15. So you can also get this off of the ewg.org website, or we also have it in the membership site that I just mentioned, fixyourfatigue.org/members. So you can download that information, print it out, keep it in your wallet, in your purse, go to the store, and if you can't buy all organic, make sure that the ones that are on the Clean 15 are the only non-organic vegetables that you buy. So your plate should really be about half vegetables, a quarter grain, and then half vegetables, a quarter meat or protein, and then a quarter starch. So maybe sweet potatoes or small waxy potatoes, not the big fluffy Idaho potatoes. Their glycemic index, or the way that they cause blood sugars to spike in your body, is too much. So there's a good look at paleo. We talked a little bit about gluten. Gluten is very it's almost like eating glue. I tell people it's almost like eating a sock, because it's been hybridized so much over time. Like I said, it's not GMO, but it's been hybridized, mixed in with other grains, so that it's completely foreign. It started off as like I believe a 20-something chromosome organism, and now it's a 40-something, so it's completely foreign to our bodies, even if we were consuming them 10,000 years ago. And so I tell people it's like eating a sock. You consume this food, the immune system reacts and causes inflammation and tries to get it out of the body as fast as it can. So just another good reason not to eat gluten. So I hope that helps. So we talked about paleo diet is the ideal diet. Oh, and the other thing too is when people remove gluten out of their diet, they'll generally lose 10% of their body weight in the first 2 months, and then 3 pounds a month until they get back to their high school weight, if they were healthy in high school and if everything else is working right, hormones and all of those other things. But it is amazing how many people lose weight on the paleo diet. So try it today. It is quite a bit of work to get into that pattern, but it's incredibly important. The last thing I wanted to mention was about food allergies, which is an incredibly important topic, and I go more into depth on this in the book. But food allergies, any food can really cause an inflammatory reaction, but there are top 10 or 11 foods that will really cause a problem. And so whenever I'm trying to quiet down the immune system and see how much of a problem the immune system is causing in autoimmunity and fatigue, I always want to remove these foods from the diet for 21 days and then and then after 21 days, you kind of see how you feel, and then you start adding in one new food every 4 days and watch what happens. So I have people keep a symptom calendar, and so that they can kind of track what they are, what their symptoms are while they're going through this. So the food elimination, I used to have everybody who came into my practice do this initially. I now don't do that as much, but it's an incredibly, incredibly important aspect of fatigue. It has to be looked at. Once again, it's a lot of work, so you got to take some baby steps to do it. But I think starting with the paleo diet, just thinking about it in terms of what you can eat versus what you can't eat, and have a lot of fun experimenting with meats, vegetables, fruits, and you're going to feel great. So this is Dr. Evan once again. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Share it with your friends. Check out the book. I'm just on a mission to help 100,000 people resolve their chronic fatigue. So thank you so much for your support in helping me with my mission. Have a wonderful day.